For a while I've been looking at a cookie recipe that intrigues me. The ingredients are partly cooked before they're assembled into a cookie dough. They're called pecan cookies, but they're very thin, kind of like my cat's tongues recipe, and they're kind of a crinkled, lacy look to them. So I'm thinking of calling them pecan filigree cookies. It's a sandwich cookie. You make an orange cream filling. I'm going to add a little bit of Cointreau to the filling. They intrigue me. I think they would be fun to make, so let's make these pecan filigree cookies. I'm heating a medium-sized saucepan here over low heat, and I'm going to put into this 1/4 cup, which is about half a stick or 2 ounces of, you can use unsalted butter. I'm using clarified butter. I'm going to add to that 1/3 cup, which is 67 grams of granulated sugar. And then this is 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup. And I want to heat this until everything is nicely melted, and then I'm going to raise the heat to medium-high. This is now just coming up to the boil. I'm going to turn the heat off under that, and I'm adding 1/3 cup, which is 1½ ounces or 43 grams of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of coarsely ground pecans. That's about 4 ounces or 113 grams. And then I have to put in a teaspoon of vanilla. I keep mine in a little eyedropper bottle. Each one of these squirts is a 1/4 teaspoon. I want to blend all that together. And that, as weird as it looks, that is my cookie dough. I've lined a baking sheet with parchment. And for something like this, I like to use something called a disher. This is like a portion controlled disher. The handle says this is a number 30, which is 1 fluid ounce or 30 milliliters. And I like them because I get very regular sized cookies. These spread quite a bit from what I understand, so I'm leaving a lot of space in between. I didn't mention the pecans that I'm using. I mentioned that I was using 1 cup, which is about 4 ounces, but I ground pecans in the food processor just to get a coarsely ground pecan. There's some big chunks in there, and there are some kind of fine powder. So now these are ready to go into the oven. I'm going to bake these for 10 to 12 minutes in an oven that's been heated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 177 degrees Celsius. I'm going to watch these closely. I want to see some browning on them. They should spread, hopefully, really thin. There is my first batch out of the oven. Look how big they are. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a knife to just separate them now while they're still hot. Now this recipe is supposed to make 18. I ended up with 10, and the reason why is because I used that disher. So I actually put a lot more batter on the sheet than I really needed. I made large cookies, but they have that nice filigree look to them. They browned nicely around the edges. I did have to bake these for a total of 16 minutes to get that browning that I wanted. You let these cool for about 10 minutes or so on the baking sheet, then I can transfer them to that rack to let them cool thoroughly. I also wanted to mention that after these had been in the oven for about 10 minutes, I noticed that a few of them had like mounds of pecans in the center. So I got in there with a metal spoon and just tapped those down a little bit to make sure that my cookies would be flat. I'm ready to transfer these now and see how easily they lift off. Oh yeah, look at that. They just come right off. That's the beauty of parchment paper, is it is so non-stick. Of course, look at all the butter in these. It's definitely not going to stick. All right, there are my cookies. I'm going to let these finish cooling. In the meantime, I'm going to make my cream filling. Before I make my filling for my cookies, I need to get a little bit of orange juice and get some zest from an orange. In some of my videos, I mentioned my funnels. I use funnels a lot. It's just the top of a jar or a bottle. Why spend money on a funnel when you've already got them in your house? You put them in recycling jars and bottles. I don't need a lot. I only need a tablespoon of orange juice and 3/4 of a tablespoon of the zest. So I do want to put, however, a sieve on there to catch any seeds that might come through. There we go. I usually end up with more stuff on me with a counter. Okay, holding on to that for the zest. That's good enough for that. And then wipe up my mess. And I'm going to use a microplane grater to just take some of the zest off of this orange. It's just the outer edge. The zest is that orange colored skin. The white stuff underneath, the pith, that is bitter. But by just gathering some of the zest off the surface, just the orange part, you get the oils and a lot of citrus flavor. All right, so there's my zest. I'm sure that's going to be enough, and I have my juice. I'm ready to prepare my filling. I have here 1 cup, which is 4 ounces, 113 grams of powdered sugar. And this makes me a little nervous. This is another 1/4 cup or 1/2 stick, 2 ounces, 57 grams of unsalted butter at room temperature. Again, I'm using clarified butter. And then here is my orange juice, 1 tablespoon. I've measured that off. My 3/4 tablespoon of orange zest. And then finally, to just ramp this up a little bit, 1 teaspoon I'm adding of Cointreau, which is orange flavored liqueur. I'm just going to blend all this together. And I have some extra powdered sugar on the side if I think this is too wet. I'm looking at it, it flows a little bit. I'm going to add some more powdered sugar to that. It may be that that extra teaspoon of Cointreau made it a little bit too wet. Okay, I added a couple of tablespoons of powdered sugar. You see there's no flow there at all to that. That's a good consistency. That's what I want. Now, what I am concerned about is that my cookies are thin and brittle. Will spreading filling on the cookies risk breaking the cookies? So I'm going to transfer this to a Ziploc bag, and then I'm going to cut a corner off, and then very carefully I'm going to pipe the filling onto the cookies. All right, let's see how this works. I'm trying to find some cookies here that are fairly evenly matched. See how nicely that works? I'm looking for cookies that are fairly evenly matched in shape and size, because they're all a little bit different. And this one looks like it'll match okay. Gently wiggle that down and press it in shape. And there is my sandwich cookie. I'm going to put that on a plate and do all my others. Then we'll be ready to taste one of these and see what they taste like. I'm already planning to give these away. Have a cup of coffee ready for myself. I took out just one of these cookies because one is going to be more than enough. Wow. See that little bit of Cointreau in that filling? It's just enough that you can get a hint of something in there, but it's not overpowering. You can taste the orange, you can taste the sugar. So excuse me, I'm gonna go enjoy my afternoon snack of pecan filigree cookies. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit my website, mobilehomegourmet.com, and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.